All right, we're gonna talk about something controversial now.
Excuse me?
Something controversial. This popped off earlier this week. Even your boy got embroiled into this shit. You know.
Oh, you broiling?
Yeah, embroiled. You know. I forgot who originally started it, but a video game reviewer was talking about how, you know, he said that people shouldn't expect reviewers to like finish games for a review or whatever. It's like a returner, right? Because a lot of reviewers, they're not finished that fucking game. You know, and it went into this whole thing, and I basically, yeah, this guy's right. Like, and I try to explain to people, like, when you have like 2 or 3 games and you're on a deadline, and your editor wants that review, and the PR wants to review, and the game's 100 hours long, you ain't finishing that fucking game. You know, so I try to explain.
Unless they give you that time.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to, before we go to the conversation, I want to know specifically that I think the current. I'm saying this as a video game journalist, right? I think the current model for reviewing games is fucking atrocious, right? We typically get games 5 days before launch or before an embargo, right?
Get the day of.
You got to rush through the shit. You know, you have to say review. You can't say first impressions because SEO and all that. You know, it has to be the review. I think it sucks. In an ideal world, we would get games 2 weeks before the embargo and have all the time in the world, you know, but sometimes it's not like that. But the thing is, a lot of fans, and I understand where they're coming from. They're like, no, you have to finish the fucking game. You have to finish it. I understand that, but you know, as a guy who's been writing reviews now for 10 years, you don't need to finish most games to write a decent review. And I'm sorry, if you can't formulate a good review after 30 hours of playing a game, you're a bad reviewer. Yeah. You know, I'm sorry, you know.
Yeah, and not all games, like racing games. I've reviewed a few racing games. When you get a certain hour in, I know the gist of it. I'm racing. Here's the maps. It's never going to change. It's going to be more races. So you can go into those type of things. So yeah, like you said, when you get these games, like I'm still playing Judgment, you know, and they give it the day after.
Yeah, that's the way. But obviously, like for example, if you have a game like The Last of Us, finish that the game's 10 hours. Finish it. You know, things like that. Yeah, you finish that shit. But if you get a 100-hour RPG, you don't, come on, bro. If after 30 hours you can't tell me if that game's good or not, obviously there's exceptions. There's exceptions where like Final Fantasy 13 gets good after 60 hours, but that means this is a bad game.
Yeah,
let's just be real here. You know?
Wait. Are you? Is this a confession?
No, it's not a confession. I still like the game, but I could admit it was a bad game, objectively. You know?
Okay.
Remember, I could be both, Carlos. I could be both. You know?
I was about to do it.
Yeah,
no, that's a fake neutral, son.
Yeah, you know. But the only thing that frustrates me, besides the fact that I have to be stuck in this kind of, it's a machine. Let's just be real here. That fans don't understand, you know. And it's like, and I don't want to be an asshole, but it would be like, all right, let me put, like, you come into my shoes for a week, bro. You know. When you have your editor telling you to get that fucking review at this certain time, when you have PR telling you get that shit at a certain time, what are you gonna do? You're gonna tell me you're not gonna do it? Okay, good. They'll fire your ass and get somebody else. You know. Again, it fucking sucks, but that's just the way it is. You know.
I forgot who said it. It was somebody that was in the business that also during this whole time and just said it best. He was like, "It's an opinion piece. It's not a guide. It's not a walk. It's not gonna cover every little nick and cranny and aspect." Like, about this one part in chapter 11 is like,
like no one's reviewing that. I mean, there are guys that do that on YouTube, but that's exhausting. I'm saying this just personally. To me, if you're like, for example, if you're doing a video review should not be longer than 5 fucking minutes. That's all you need. But you have guys that are, and here's an hour review. I'm like, an hour? What the fuck?
Yeah,
who needs that shit? You know? And here's the thing. And I learned this from the fucking blog, right? When I started reviewing games on the blog that we guys had, I was just like, I only need to play 5 hours of games mostly. I'm like, the rest is just for the fuck of it, you know, because most games, they once they hit a specific loop, they keep going and going and going. But obviously, if it's a narrative driven game, you need to finish that shit for obvious reasons, you know.
Think of it like a food critic. They go in, they take a few bites, and then they can tell you. They don't eat the whole. They don't eat the whole meal. I'm like, I gotta try every little. Take a few bites and get it. Like, all right, I got an idea.
Yeah, you're right about it. And the other thing, Carlos, I'll let you go next. Like the analogy going, imagine a movie reviewer only watches 15 minutes. Like, dude, a 2-hour movie is different than a 100-hour game. That's a big difference, dude. You know, you can watch like 50 movies in that amount of time. You know, go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, I think it always depends on the game. You can Monster Hunter. You don't need to play that game for the 200 hours.
No, you don't. You know.
to say it's a freaking amazing game.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be
Also,
like, an hour 50 bezel, guys. I'm not gonna say shit like that. Who cares, you know?
or even the game like the Division. The
Yeah,
Division, you gotta play. You gotta play 20, 30 hours. You'll know what the game is after
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
But there's the game like The Last of Us. There is a game like Resident Evil Village.
yeah.
Those games lend
Think,
themselves
yeah,
to be able to complete, to actually get the whole experience of the game,
yep.
like what they're intending. For the Division, for Monster Hunter, it's all about the loop. Once they get you into that loop, you play that same exact loop for 200-300 hours.
Once you see how the crafting works, once you see how the mission structure works, and the objectives and the mission types, and it's like, I see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. You get the gist of it. And like I said, my personal rule is if it's a long game and I'm under deadline, 30 hours minimum. That's my personal thing. If I don't have the gist of a game for 30 hours, that's a bad game. And think about it, I'm not telling you about, when it comes to the story, I'm not telling you the shit that happens in the end. I never do that. Even with games like, and by the way, I beat 95% of my games. Look at my fucking trophies. You know what I'm saying? I beat 95 of the games I fucking play, and review. But like, I'm never going to tell you, oh, the resolution to this game was good. I'm not going to tell you that shit. I'm going to just tell you, hey, here's the basic story. Here are the mechanics, the shit you actually want to know. By the way, some of the guys in the chat are listing some content creators that do long reviews, like
APG.
Logic Wins. What's going on, brother? He says Angry Joe. He says he likes his 30 minute to 1 hour long reviews. That's, again, for me, that's too long. 3 to 5 minutes. That's all you need for a review. Skill Up. I've heard of that. I guess he does long reviews too. How could you review a game like Halo Infinite, which will be multiplayer heavy, weeks ahead of time? See, with those type of games, like, I think it might be, even though I don't like this, I think it might be worth revisiting those kind of games later on. But even with a game like that, 30 hours, that's all you need. Like, especially a multiplayer game. Actually, a multiplayer game, you need less time than that. Let's just be real here. If it's like a heavy multiplayer focused game, you don't need more than 10 hours for that, man. You really don't. Even that's a little excessive, because once you know the loop, you know the loop.
Shit, even a game like Fortnite, all you need to do is play one match. You know what the hell the game's
about.
You know
the whole game, So basically the thing is, like, the whole, like, that, not every game fits that mold. Tetris, you only need an hour to play that shit for an hour to get the gist of that game. Last of Us 2, you need to play the full 20 hours to get that game. You know what I'm saying? So it's a case-by-case basis. I just wish the fans would understand that. We're all stuck in this cycle together, and ideally, not only will we not be constrained by that, we will also not have numbered reviews either. But that's another thing,
And also,
don't like number reviews.
It's important to note that some reviewers get games earlier than others, so they're not. It's not all equal.
Yo, and I'm so glad it said. I got to throw a name out there. And I'm not trying to talk shit. Just being real here, because one of the clips I was being tossed around was it was a clip of Colin Moriarty, right? He was saying that he thinks it's bullshit. He's like, you game journalists are being fucking lazy. Finish your fucking games. And he was like, I always finish my games, and if I couldn't, I wrote my thesis on. I'm like, Colin, you work for IGN and you were Colin Moriarty. You got games earlier than everybody else, bruh. You had the luxury of finishing those games on time. You know what I'm saying? So it's not exactly 1-to-1, but I do like.
He did walkthroughs. That was his thing at GameFAQs. He did a lot of walkthroughs.
Yeah, but I do like his things. Like, if I can't beat the game, I'm gonna kind of make the review or thesis around it. That's kind of cool. But again, sometimes your editors don't care about that. Get the fucking review out.
No, but I mean, here's the thing. Like, yeah, again, he is Colin Moriarty. He's a special case.
Yeah,
they'll give him that shit early because he is who he is. Everybody else, like folks like the Coalition and everybody else. Sometimes you're getting that shit like literally the day before it actually comes out.
Yep. But I will say this though. So this thing we got brought up. And I'm being mad open about it. If I get a game code from your company a day before launch, you're going to get that review when I'm done with it. I'm like, if you didn't bother to get me that shit early, I'm not going to bother you. I'm not going to bother to rush through that fucking review, So like, I'll finish it on my time,
If it's before embargo, then it's like, okay. But if you're doing it after, then there's no point.
Yeah. Like Returnal.
Colin Moriarty said so.
Colin Moriarty said so. So I found that because people are
trust him. He's from Long Island.
Yeah, and because people were like, "Oh, Tony, what do you think? What do you think about what Colin said?" I didn't, because I don't want to go back and forth with him or whatever. But I'm like, this is my podcast, so I'm going to do it now. But it's like, dude, you were Colin Mario. I mean, he is Colin Mario, but you know what I'm saying, because he's out of the industry now. But when you were at IGN gets games before everybody, and you were Colin Moriarty. So, I'm sorry, man.
There ain't no. I've never heard any situation where fucking IGN has ever been slumming it and had to, not to get a review out. No, they get the review out.
The Bethesda, the Doom 2016. That's the only one that comes to mind, and that was that with everybody at the time.
That was one of the first Bethesda, because Bethesda does that all the time now. Fallout 76, everybody got that shit on day one. No exceptions. That's just how Bethesda rolls. But
that's how they affect reviews.
Yeah.
Where essentially, if you're not getting the reviews, if everybody's reviews are late, right? That means that nobody can just look. People are essentially buying based on the fact that they like the franchise. It's just a little fucked up.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy that the game reviewers got Fallout 76 day one, while the general public got it in 200 days afterwards.
Oh shit!
Well, they because here's the thing: they knew that that's also the telltale sign. Whenever you get a review copy late, it shows that the company doesn't have a lot of faith, or there's something seriously wrong with it.
Listen, I'm saying all this as a professional. It is very manipulative when companies do that shit, because they know what they want. They know if they get you that review copy late, you're not going to have enough time to get that review out on launch day, so the fans will just buy it off of faith. Let's just be real here, very manipulative, man.
What was it? Was that NBA Live one a few years back, or maybe now it's even further back? But I remember it was a big deal. It's coming out with. When it came Logic Win says who determines when a game review is late? The embargo is the date, man. That's the date. If it gets after embargo, then it's late.
But you gotta understand Logic Wins. Like when it comes to websites, like bigger websites, they want those clicks, and if you don't have that shit like day and date, you're losing potential money from any of those clicks.
I'm gonna Brett. I'll let you come in here for a little bit. I just gotta say this because GZDR says, "How long do you think reviewers played Death Stranding before they got to the feel of it?" Here's the thing about Death Stranding, and I can say this now publicly, right? Every review that you read of that game, including mine, was only based off the first 4 chapters, because the embargo thing said specifically your review cannot mention anything after chapter 4. Manipulative, just saying.
Yeah, that's controlling the narrative. That's not right. That's not a full review. What if right after that the game went to poo-poo? It was like, oh shit.
You were not allowed to talk about that. So anyway, Brett, get in here, man, because you're kind of, I just want your thoughts on this, because you probably have a more idealized version of this.
Of what exactly? There's been a lot of back and forth. I think I lost track of the original question. I do have feelings, though.
Of course you do. No, do you think, game reviewers should finish game reviews, games that they review?
Yeah, okay. So I have mixed feelings about this. I have seen game reviews. I've seen the layouts and the packages they send you, and the bad news is you guys are being manipulated way more than you think. As Tony touched on, a lot of times they tell you what you can say, what pictures you can use, what parts of the game you're allowed to talk about, what parts of the game you're not allowed to talk about. It's just kind of a thing. I hate to say it and sound cynical, but that's part of the journalism industry, right? Like, you have to look at professional journalists with a little bit of critical thought, right? Like, yeah, you can like Angry Joe. You can like Tony, right? Like, I know Tony. I've done my research on him.
Yeah.
I continue to do it on this show repeatedly, and I have a good idea of where he's coming from. So when he writes a review, I can generally tell. Tony's generally not going to come out and say this game is a hot dumpster fire that should have been aborted. He's not going to do that. He will, however, tell you his frank opinions about what's wrong with the game. And you have to kind of infer from that a lot of his feelings, because he does try to be objective. So, like, there are certain lines you can cross and certain lines you can't cross. And that only changes if you're some sort of kind of gamer shock jock who's just allowed to tell it like it is. Like, yeah, that guy would be great. That guy would also never get any video games and never have a fucking review for you by embargo.
Colin Moriarty nowadays, just saying.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, you see how that works? So you got to dance with the devil a little bit if you want to join, honestly, any industry. It's very naive to think that this shit doesn't go on literally everywhere there's more than 3 people. It happens in the tattoo industry. I'm sure it happens in the comic industry.
Yeah.
I think the one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the other thing about it is that it's a little bit more unique, especially when it comes to games reviews. Is how beholden the game review industry is to the video game companies. No, in the movie industry, they don't give you half a movie and say you can only review the first half of the fucking movie. The only thing that they can do, and which they also get, the industry gets called out by, if you ever watched Siskel and Ebert before, they'll say like, yeah, we didn't get a preview screening, so we won't be reviewing this. Which usually means when they do those sorts of things, like they don't, usually the movie industry doesn't really do stuff like that. They usually just sort of like let the reviewers come through and say what they want, and not try to control the narrative. When there's something up when they try to do something like that, just like in the game industry. But it doesn't happen as often as it seems to happen within the game industry, where they're literally just saying, yeah, you can only do this. You can only show this picture. You can't say that there's glitches in the game. It'll be crazy shit.
Yeah, like, because I've been to a bunch of movie screenings, right? They're usually about a week before the movie. I have never had an embargo for any of those. Ever. The day I see that movie at a screening, I can say whatever the fuck I want. Games are not like that. Anyway, Brett, continue.
I mean, that was a lot of my point, is that unfortunately, games being such long form media, people invest a lot of money in it, and people are very interested about where you go and what you do, because they don't have your eye the way a movie does. It's not necessarily as curated of an experience, but they want you to experience a very curated experience. I mean, I've seen it down to, and Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen down like they're not telling you what to say, but they're encouraging certain key phrases in your review.
Yeah, they are. Oh, by the way, and I think I've said this. I don't know if I said this on. I definitely told you guys off air, because every game comes with a review guide. Unless it's like the embargo, like don't talk about this game at this point, I throw that shit out the window. I'm like, fuck that. I'm gonna write whatever fuck I'm gonna write.
But Tony,
you know what's funny? That's like a cheat sheet in a way. They're like, hey, if you don't even want to play it, just read the guide.
It is. Yeah, you're right about that. Because Brett, I'll let you go real quick. But this is just to emphasize your point, right? When I went to that first EA event and they gave me a sheet of like what the game features, I'm like, damn, I could literally just show up here, grab this sheet, write a whole feature, and not even have played a single damn thing. So yeah, it's very, very controlled in that way, But the Death Stranding thing is said in big red letters. Do not talk about this game after Chapter 4, because I used to look out for it. But other than that, I'm like, fuck this shit, I'm gonna write what I'm gonna write. Anyway, go ahead, bro.
Have you ever read a review that almost sounds just like another review that almost sounds like just sounds like another review?
Dude, why do you? That's why. That's one of the. No.
That's my point.
Yeah. No, Brett. Just to answer the question. That's why I stopped reading reviews. I'm like, they all read the same.
Exactly, because a lot of reviewers don't have a lot of writing talent. Let's be fucking honest here. There's a difference between a journalist and a writer. Fortunately, like Tony's both, but like not everybody fucking is. So a lot of people are just going to dress up, because they'll send it to you in long form too. Like they'll send it to you in full paragraph. Like, we want to see something like this, and pretty much give you an example of review. And people just fucking paraphrase. Like, have you ever written a book report off the back of a book? That's what they're fucking doing. And it's the same amount of low effort, and it still fucking works in the grand scheme of things. That's why you have to be, like I said, read reviews with a critical eye. Read a few. And if it sounds like they sound the fucking same, it's because that motherfucker's a shill.
Oh, shit. I'm not gonna go that far, but some of these guys, like, you could. But I should say this, and Adam, you could watch this. They don't send those as much as they used to, like review guides. Like when I first started in this history, almost all games had them. There's very few now, But again, like I said, I ignore that shit,
It depends on the game, and I forgot what it was. It was a game not so long ago that I remember seeing, and it was like, oh yeah, here's our guide. Really look into it. It's like, what the? Telling me what to do? No, I'm not looking into it.
Again, I said I only look at whatever's in red. That's all I care about. Whatever's in red. Other than that, I'm like, that's it. I'm doing my thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but other people are mouthpieces.
Oh, no, I understand that.
And that's when I say they're a shill, I fucking stand by that. They have been paid, and they're a mouthpiece for a paid company, acting as if they're not. That is like the very fucking definition.
Yeah, but the video game companies are not paying people to review games. No. Let's get that out there.
No, they're giving them free shit.
And that's
Bothering them.
it. And that's why a lot of these follow that guide, because they were like, well, this is what they want me to say, and I want to keep getting free games for producing more content for the site, and they don't give a shit. And that's when you start reading, and you can do a copy paste and do a search, keyword search, and find the same phrases, the same paragraphs in each of the reviews. It's because they're doing that, the cut and paste. And you know what? They're okay doing it because they're like, hey, the publisher told me to do this. They're not going to get pissed. They'll be like, they told me follow the guide. It's labeled guide. Why would you do that? I whatever. But that's the way it is.
And if they can do it because their company doesn't get pissed and the customers don't get pissed. Like what are you guys gonna do? Like you read a review that copy and pasted the same thing from another one, and what is your recourse from that point? Write a fucking angry letter? You don't even know who actually wrote the article because nobody reads who wrote the fucking article. It's just thrown in there in GameSpot or IGN or one of the big fucking things. It's copy and pasted up there with zero fucking effort.
No, the whole system is screwed.
Yeah, I'm not calling out any company individually, but those who do it, you know who you fucking are.
Oh man. Anyway, Brian, get in here, man. I want your thoughts, Brian, because you've written your show reviews as well, sir.
It's a lot to take in, definitely. I'd say I'm in the camp that there are some games that you can review without finishing, but then there are other games that you can't. So, again, as Tony said, it just depends on the game itself. I can understand the frustration with like being told that, hey, I didn't finish the game, but here's my thoughts on it. It's like, well, it's not the complete package. But then again, most of the time, unless the story changes wildly or it's very focused on the story, it doesn't really matter if they finish it, because you can play Monster Hunter for like 10 hours and that's the game. Like there isn't really much else to it after that. It's just that, hey, here's 100 hours extra off the same 10 hours you've been playing, which is fair enough. Again, that's not a bad thing. It's just the way the game is. But then there are other games where, hey, the story is all this stuff, and certain things happen, certain twists happen, the gameplay changes, like Nier Automata. Like the gameplay somehow goes, okay, we're now a top-down shooter, or we're now a bullet hell, you know? So with stuff like that, I can understand why you'd want people to complete the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just really depends.
Yeah, it really does.
I have a question.
Call us further then, Brett.
This will be quick. Like even for like Nier Automata, it's like not only do you have to beat the game, you have to beat it 3 times to actually know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it's funny because like the second round is like a trick because it's mostly the same as the first, but then the sneaky thing is that the third part of the game is a totally different thing, totally different direction.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
I'm kind of wondering why we don't have the embargo dates almost written in the reviews, because I feel like, honestly, any sensible person, and I could be completely off track here because I still somehow give people too much credit, I feel like any responsible person, if they know that the embargo lifted, they know I received this game 42 hours before the release of this, they're going to take into context that you've only gotten so far in the game. I mean, it's physically impossible to play a week of a game if you only get it 2 days ahead of time. It's you can't do it.
You mean that the review should have the date you received the copy?
Yeah.
Okay, because like the embargo date is when it goes live. Like that's when.
Sorry, I misworded that.
Yeah.
They should all come clearly labeled with when you've received the copy and how long you've been able to play it.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I would love to do that myself, but the game company specifically would not want you to do that shit. You know?
They don't want you to, yeah. And then let's say there's a negative review on him, like you just
like, yo, if it was up to me, I'd put the date I got the review and how many hours I put into the thing. But game companies are not going to be happy with that, you know.
And see, well, here's a point. I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent. You brought up Fallout 76 before and how it took 2 years to be released. I'm not going to argue with that fact. That was clearly the redheaded fucking stepchild they only turned back and fixed because everybody got so pissed. But that's my point here. Is gamers have more of a voice in their industry than anything else. If we want to change the way reviews are done, if we want to be able to actually give reviewers the time to be able to complete it, we need to be basically let our voice be heard. And we need to be talking to the big sites and saying, you know, you need to be pestering them for this, but we also need to be pestering the fucking game companies. Like, if a company comes out with, if they send out the game on day one, that should be a thing gamers know, and gamers can get pissed about it, and gamers can start identifying the fucking companies that do that. I mean, we already have a pretty good idea when you don't get a review copy day one, that's a bad idea. But what about for all the people that aren't anywhere near a journalism circle, who haven't figured that out in casual passing? I don't know. I just feel like gamers have changed a whole lot of shit in the industry, and this should be one of the things that we're calling for, but it's strangely just missed. Because everybody I know is pissed about it, but nobody I know wants to change it.
Yeah.
I think that the publishers really don't give a shit. They just want their game out there, and they want talking about it. They don't care if it's the day of, the week after. They just want you talking about it. So that's just how it is on their end. It's not a big to-do. They don't like, oh, damn, we didn't get everybody the copy embargo. Oh, no, we failed. They don't give a shit. You know, they'll be like, oh, okay, we'll send it to you day of or next week, whatever. If they really care, you get it early, like the IGN and those. But
well, could maybe that be an avenue that people start just actively mentioning? I received this game with plenty of time, like, you know, they're shining on the positive, and they just don't say anything when they don't send it to you a day fucking early.
Yeah, but the problem is if you start doing that, some companies will not be happy you do that. Understand?
Yeah. They don't want to be outed on.
I know nobody wants to dive on that grenade, so I completely understand it. But goddamn, do we need that?
Yeah, and again, man, ideally, I would personally list when I got the review copy, how much time I put into the game. I would love to do that shit, but the companies are not going to be happy doing that.
Or when the companies start canceling their shit after, like I remember with the Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
they told us, oh, don't worry, you're definitely getting codes, and then like 2 days before, no codes for you. Sorry.
I'm not going to name a company, but this one company, they gave me a very specific embargo date, ready to go, and then they changed it at the last minute, so I had to compensate for that. Me and my editor were fucking livid, you know. But again, they're the ultimate holders of these things, so we can't think about it because people are blaming the game journalists and stuff because we're the guys who bring you the fire, you know, from Mount Olympus, but the gods are fucking us over too. You know what I'm saying?
Isn't that literally shooting the messenger?
Yeah, it is. It is
not quite literally, but like that is the epitome of shooting the messenger.
Yeah, so it's like we're getting the brunt of it, but we're not. It's not our fault. We are trying to do our best with the system, you know. But no,
I think I've seen. I don't know if it was IGN. It was some big site where it was 2 or 3 games that I remember them getting, and they didn't get a long enough time, and they were like, "Oh, this is just our first impressions."
Yeah.
They were using that title. Oh, first impressions. We'll get a review. I'm pretty sure it was IGN.
Yeah, they do that. Like they're called review in progress.
Yeah,
you know?
there you go. Review in progress. And I was like, you know what? That makes more sense.
Yeah. I'll be honest, man. There are instances where I get a game like kind of late-ish or whatever, or close to the release date. And I'm actually prefer those. So I'm like, okay, I could just take my fucking time now, you know, because if I'm taking my time, I'm finishing the game, you know. But again, that doesn't happen very often for me. I finish most fucking games, like the one I'm about to answer right now. This question is from GZDR. He goes, Tony, what about a game like Days Gone that was given to the reviewers early and was filled with bugs? The bugs was patched out within a week, but the damage was done. Should a game like that get a second review? Okay, yeah, I got that game 2 weeks beforehand. I finished the whole game and I played it nice and slow, chill. That is the ideal way of doing fucking reviews. So when I had that review ready, I had that review ready 3 days before fucking embargo. Like, I finished it. Here's my review. But the thing is, I may be a little bit of a special case for this game. I didn't experience those bugs everybody else did. I'm not saying the game didn't have bugs. I've seen those videos. The game was buggy as fuck. But for me, the game never bugged out. So I never talked about that because I didn't experience it. And remember, here's the other thing. On the one hand, I like reviewing the game after the game comes out because I have time with it. But at the same time, I also like reviewing a game beforehand because when I'm reviewing a game beforehand, I don't have any outside influencing me. You know, like if a game is out, I have to work very hard to not listen to other people's opinions so they don't taint my own. So I do like getting games early so I don't have to worry about anything because I don't know what the fuck anybody else thinks, you know. So that's like the rawest fucking review. But with this game, no. And as for games getting a second review, I don't know. I'm still not really with it per se, but I also understand maybe you should get a second review. But the thing is, with Metacritic and all that, it's going to change the score. Again, the system is so messed up.
Okay, well, I gotta ask this question.
Yeah,
because I'll be honest, I'm very results oriented. Sometimes to an insulting degree to others, but I just gotta say, this sounds like should reviewers be held accountable to the thing they turned in to be judged? Like, if this was a fucking baking contest or a tattoo competition or fucking anything, like, yes, the thing you turn into the judge is the thing you get judged on. That's very straightforward. And if it does a lot of damage to your brand, maybe don't hand in something bad to be judged.
That's true.
If I just face planted a tattoo, which thank God I don't do, but if I just came in fucking drunk and face planted a tattoo and put that god awful mess up in the middle of a convention to be judged, like all my peers would look at me like, what the fuck? And I'm sure a good amount of customers too, as well they should. You don't put something in for judging unless it's extra fucking crispy.
Yeah, and Brett, and that's why I specifically do not like, oh, here's the second version of the review. I'm like, no, I'm reviewing the thing I got, bro. You know, if it's bad, it's fucked up, that's not on me. That's on the company that gave it to me because I didn't patch this shit out, you know? So that's my stance.
A huge red flag in and of itself.
Yeah, that's my stance. I'm like, listen, I'm reviewing the thing I got sent. If it gets fixed afterwards, that's not my problem, you know?
No. Review this one. Fuck you. Why'd you give me a broken game?
Yeah. So, yeah, this whole thing is messed up. You know this is going to be a TD Clips, you know, just to see if I could open some eyes. By the way, I did the impossible today, man. I did the impossible today. I got someone who was against me, you know, on this stance to see my point of view. And we both walked away after a civil conversation.
There's a 0% chance this happened on Twitter.
This happened on Twitter.
No, I don't believe you.
I'll send you the thread, man. It's there. The guy came and he literally ended it quoting me going, I was wrong about Tony. He's in a fucked up situation. You know?
By the way, this isn't going to be a TD Clips. This is going to be a TD essay, man.
Oh, you know? Yeah, this is going to be one for all time, so you guys understand how this shit works, you know? But, you know, this is what we do on Throwdown. We have industry professionals in this bitch, so we will tell you how things are, you know, but we also keep it real here, you know?
That's the thing. I think the one biggest factor about a lot of this is the fact that there is no information, you know, from people, right?
Yeah.
With the exception of with the unique case of Colin Moriarty or anybody else like a Greg Miller or any of those other guys, right? Those guys are special. Everybody else is just struggling to get along.
Yep, that's how it is, man.
And even those motherfuckers have received their games late or not received the game at all, and they said, "Oh no, we're not going to review it."
Yeah, that's how it is, man.